All right, picture a Viking warrior. You're probably imagining some epic feast, right? But what if I told you the reality behind their power wasn't a feast, but a famine? In this explainer, we're uncovering the grim and very real story of the Viking diet.
So, let's get right to it. What did a Viking warrior actually eat before heading into battle? I can almost guarantee it's not what you think, and it is definitely not what you've seen in the movies.
Yeah, you're probably picturing something just like this. Massive halls, roaring fires, lavish feasts with roasted boar and overflowing tankards of mead, tables literally groaning under the weight of all that food. A celebration fit for legends.
And that's the thing. It is a legend. Because the truth? Well, it gets shattered by a much, much harsher reality.
The reality was far more grim. For your average Viking, their diet wasn't about celebration at all. It was about sheer, desperate survival. And that pre-battle ritual? Yeah, it was anything but a feast.
So, what exactly were these, let's call them unappetizing staples? Let's dive into a diet that was truly born from desperation.
For most Norsemen, the main fuel source wasn't juicy roasted meat. Nope, it was this, a thick gray sludge called grauter. And believe it or not, this was pretty much the engine that powered the Viking Age.
So this gruel, it was basically a sludge of barley, rye, and whatever weeds they could yank out of the frozen earth. It was all cooked together in a huge communal pot. And get this, that pot was almost never, and I mean never, properly cleaned. Just imagine the layers of old, congealed stew mixing with the new stuff. That was your breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So what about all that fresh meat from the myths? Yeah, that was a luxury. It was reserved for the chieftains, the wealthy, or for offerings to appease the gods. The common warrior, they didn't see much of it.
Instead, warriors often survived on this. It's called hakar. It's shark meat, buried and left to ferment until it reaches a state of controlled rot. And the smell? Oh man, an overwhelming stench of ammonia and decay, so potent it could supposedly be detected from miles away.
And it didn't just stop with the fish. When grain supplies ran low during those brutal Scandinavian winters, even their bread became a testament to desperation.
To stretch what little flour they had, they would grind up tree bark and dried peas. This created a rock-hard, incredibly bitter bread that was way more about survival than it was about satisfaction.
Archaeologists have actually found fossilized remains of these loaves, and they revealed a final, pretty grim ingredient. They were often infested with grain weevils and flour beetles, an unwanted but maybe a necessary source of extra protein.
Okay, so the food was bad. But what about what they drank? Well, turns out that was just as dangerous as combat itself.
Vikings loved their ale, sure, but it wasn't the clean, crisp brew we know today. No way. It was a thick, cloudy concoction, just full of unfiltered sediment. Every single sip was a gamble with a nasty case of dysentery, which could take a warrior out of the fight before the first axe was even swung.
And to get into that legendary berserker rage, some warriors turned to potions. Specifically, teas infused with the toxic plant henbane. Its purpose? To cause hallucinations, numb pain, and trigger a terrifying dissociative rage.
This chemical cocktail would turn disciplined men into mindless beasts, foaming at the mouth, feeling no pain, and fighting with a totally inhuman fury. This was chemical warfare, Viking style.
But maybe the most terrifying meal of all came after the battle was over. It was called the onion soup test, and it was a grim form of battlefield triage.
Here's how it worked. A wounded warrior would be fed a really, really strong onion soup. A healer would then lean in close and smell the open stomach wound. If they could smell onions leaking from the wound, they knew the gut had been pierced. And the verdict was simple. The wound was fatal.
If you smelled of onions, your fate was sealed. You were considered a dead man. With no antibiotics or modern surgery, there was just no hope. You were left to face the end, often alone.
So rotten fish, infested bread, and a death sentence by onion soup. What does this all mean? Well, it points to the real source of Viking strength, something forged not in feasts, but in hunger. The life of the average Viking wasn't one of golden halls and endless banquets. Not even close. It was a relentless cycle of eating rot, drinking filth, and just enduring the bitter, biting cold.
And this leads to the most important insight of all. The Vikings didn't conquer vast swaths of the world because they were well-fed super soldiers. They conquered because they were starving, they were hardened, and they were utterly desperate. They had absolutely nothing left to lose.
And that desperation, fueled by a life of deprivation, that's what drove them onto those longships and across the unforgiving seas. It was a hunger for land, for food, for anything better than the life they had. Their legendary ferocity wasn't born from strength, but from a terrifying will to survive.